What is up, Duelist? Arts and Crafts here, bringing you the second week of War League Wednesdays, where we do a deep dive into one of the top GOAT format War League matches of the previous week. In today's match, we've got Godot versus Siyeon. I think their Discord username is like Yoru, spelled with Japanese letters. Um, and to give you guys a little bit of context, I picked this match because if we flip over here to the War League standings, for those of you who haven't seen before, I mentioned this last Wednesday, but War League is like a weekly league format where there are teams of at least 5 players going head to head every week in like a best of 5. Each player plays one person on the other team, and then you compare like match scores from both teams. And whoever gets 3 out of 5 wins that matchup for that week, right? So last week was week 2. So these were the standings after week 1. It's split into 2 different conferences, blue and red. And so I wanted to bring you guys kind of the top performing duelists from the top performing teams so far. So I picked one of the matches that were 2 1-0 teams going up against each other. Down in the red conference, there happened to be one that is FGF IDGAF versus the Bones Generation, both teams that were undefeated through the first week. And then one of their matchups, their pairings between the individual players, was 2 undefeated players as well, which were these 2. So we've got 2 undefeated players on 2 undefeated teams. So kind of like the tippy top of the leaderboard for War League as it stood in week 2 or going into week 2. So now, talking to people in War League, it seems like what a lot of people really like that's unique to the format, that they don't get in other sort of GOAT format competitions, is the prep time that goes into planning like what deck you're going to play every week. Because each player is going to be playing several weeks throughout the year, and the match history, all the replays are public information. So there's a good amount of like prepping of like, okay, I know this player likes to play these sorts of decks, so how can I tweak my ratios or choose my deck for the week to best kind of counteract their strategy? And there's a lot of like, will they, won't they? A lot of scouting, stuff like that. And so I wanted to kind of do a little bit of that overview here in this series as well to give you guys context into what these players might have been thinking when they chose what decks they were building, kind of go a little bit into the scouting process. So I watched the replays for both of these players in their week 1 matches where they both won. Both of them were playing Chaos Turbo in week 1, which I think is important to note. I think you're always prepared to play against Chaos Turbo in War League, most likely, but they might be very much expecting that going into this. Sample size of 1, of course, but it is the only data point we have so far. Both players were up against a control deck week 1. I believe Godot was up against Chaos Control, whereas Yoru was more up against like a traditional GOAT control list. So both matchups where they're probably more the aggressor. And after going through the replay, I was able to get a little bit of a sense of basically like what cards they shown. Basically everything they hear up in the main deck section are cards I saw in their deck in game 1, right? And then here is anything after game 1 that either could have been in the main deck and we just didn't see it in game 1, or was brought in against the side, or post side. So this is Godot's week from the first, or Godot's list from the first week, at least that I could surmise. Like I said, they were playing Chaos Turbo against a Chaos Control player. Some pretty interesting ratios to keep in mind if you were Yoru and you were scouting this out. Triple Spy, Double Dekoichi is kind of one of the, the ratios of those 2 monsters in a Chaos Turbo list is something to think about. I only saw 1 Night Assailant main deck, but we did see a second one post side, so it's pretty likely that the Night Assailant was in the main deck. They had main deck Mystical Space Typhoon and Heavy Storm, which you don't always see. They were playing a main deck Minecon, so a little bit pre-sided towards at least anti-flip strategies, probably mostly expecting Turbo. They were playing a single Dust Shoot. They were playing main deck Torrential Tribute, which is really interesting, especially when you're expecting to play against more Chaos strategies. A lot of Turbo decks recently have started to not play as much Torrential Tribute, at least in the main deck. It's considered kind of suboptimal nowadays. But I actually think it's really smart here to at least show that you're willing to main deck Torrential Tribute in at least week 1, right? Even if you never play it the rest of the season, you've shown people that you're willing to play Torrential main deck in Turbo, and so now players always have to have that in the back of their mind, right? And Torrential Tribute, like its, cousin, its partner in crime, Mirror Force, these are cards that I feel like, especially in like Turbo Mirrors, you get most of the value of of the card by never using it, by never showing it, right? Because it'll force your opponent to always consider playing around Torrential or Mirror Force until they see the card, right? Once you use it, it's like, okay, they probably got some value off of it, but now I don't have to play around it anymore. That's pretty sweet, right? And so showing that you have Torrential here, even if you never play it the rest of the season, like I'm saying, there is always the chance that you are running it, and players might have to play around it. So it's almost like you get the benefits of playing the card now because you showed it in week 1 without maybe ever having to play the card again the rest of the league. Depending on how deep people are going in the scouting, right? All that good stuff. But I do like kind of playing these unconventional one-offs, at least early on, just to keep it in the back of players' minds when they're prepping and making decisions in the match, because it kind of makes things a little bit more confusing, potentially. The other notable thing that I saw, main deck Ceasefire, is something that you very rarely see in Turbo. So they were playing a very anti-flip sort of strategy here, which maybe, if Yoru was doing some scouting, could influence what deck they came prepared with. Also, notably, no Jar of Greeds anywhere in the 55 that I saw so far, which might mean if you're Yoru and you're prepping against Godot and you expect them to bring Turbo, maybe you're more likely to play more back row removal like main deck Heavy Storm, main deck MST, two cards that aren't always played main deck in Turbo, or even if they are main decked, are sided out after the first game. But Jar of Greed, if the opponent's not running Jar of Greed and they have some actual unchainables, maybe you want to keep that stuff in, right? So these are the things that I feel like players are probably thinking about when they're doing their scouting and building their decks. Besides the second Night Assailant, also post-game 1, we saw Kaiku, pretty normal card to see in Turbo side decks, as well as they were playing Chaos Control, so Book of Moon, if it's not in the main, is definitely a good card to bring in against that. And then we also saw Card Destruction, honestly pretty likely that they probably main decked that, because I don't think you would side it in specifically for Chaos Control. So their main deck probably looked something like this. No guarantee that they're even playing Chaos Turbo here in round 2, but this is the one sample size worth of scouting that we have on Godot. Flip over to what Yoru's playing on week 1, and they won their match very quickly. It was a quick 2-0 with pretty short games, like I was saying before, up against like a pure Chaos Control, or pure Goat Control list, sorry. And the matches were pretty quick, so I didn't have nearly as much of a picture of their deck, which is probably good for them for scouting purposes, right? But what I did see, they were definitely running triple Dekoichi, which can change up like mind control math, right? They're running double Magician of Faith. They definitely are running double Night Assailant main. A lot of these cards that I saw post side are probably cards that are always main decked, like Serp, Tribe, the single Sook, and the second Sorcerer, pretty much always main decked. Same with Upstart and Jar of Greed. So their main deck, I guess we probably know a little bit more than I originally let on. They were main decking MST. Unlike Godot, they were playing Jar of Greed, so that back row removal is going to be a little bit less good if they're still on a similar list. At least 2 Dust Shoots main, so didn't see any Mind Cons or Ceasefires like we saw out of Godot, but still definitely prepared for the Chaos Turbo matchup. And then the one other thing that really kind of jumped out to me, and like I said, we didn't see most of their deck, or a good chunk of their deck, so it might not be completely true, but I didn't see a single spy between both games. You'll notice Gravekeeper Spy completely missing here. Now, I would assume if you're playing Chaos Turbo, you're definitely playing Spy in the deck, right? But the intel could be, because I didn't see a single copy over 2 games, maybe they're only running double Spy, which is kind of a less often used ratio nowadays. I think we've pretty much considered the consensus now is that triple Spy, at least in Turbo, is generally the way to go, right? But double Spy is something you see sometimes. They definitely could be running triple Spy. It's not mathematically impossible, but the fact that I didn't see a single copy over 2 games means that it's a little bit more likely than normal that maybe they're just on the double Spy technology, which could make more aggressive strategies a little stronger. Might make you more willing to bring like Warrior or Earth Aggro or something, knowing that one of the most effective, they're not playing max copies of one of the most effective anti-aggro walls in the format. So that is basically kind of the scouting. Like I said, only 1 week of data, small sample size, but both players did play Chaos Turbo with kind of pre-siding against Chaos Turbo in their own unique ways. So let's hop into the game here. We'll see what both players decided to bring in week 2. We're going to watch this from Godot's POV, so we'll talk a little bit about their decision making as well, and should be a good one. So right off the bat, Godot is going to win the rock, paper, scissors, shoot, going first, of course, and their opening hand is kind of interesting, so they get to draw one more card. We see something that would look like normal Chaos Turbo, especially because we know that they like to main deck Torrential Tribute in their Turbo lists per week 1. But we do see a main deck Asura Priest here, which is generally not main decked in Turbo. It's more main decked in like a Chaos Control sort of list. So Godot might have kind of switched up their game plan here and brought a little bit more controlling deck. Really good opening hand here, though. Really nice to open your Thunder Dragons. Opening Duo is really nice as well. You don't really have a strong opening play here, though. So we're probably just going to go Duo, pitch Thunder Dragon, maybe set Torrential Pass, or maybe just pass. You could maybe like set Asura Priest to be kind of cheeky, but probably not worth it. I guess the only choice is really, do you want to play Torrential? Do you want to set Torrential, or do you want to not? And I think you could probably hold it here. We'll see where they choose to go. I guess it'll often depend on what you hit with Duo. So I'm going to fire up Duo here first, of course. Siyeon, like I said, playing Turbo in week 1, so that's kind of what you're expecting here most likely. You hit a Nobleman of Crossout, so that's pretty good that at least, you don't have to worry about one copy of that. It'll make any flip monsters you draw into later a little bit stronger. They're going to discard Magician of Faith. Cool. So definitely, most likely some sort of Chaos strategy here. Could be Flip Warrior, but a little bit unlikely. And now you're just going to go Thunder Dragon, set Torrential Pass, probably. I guess you probably don't want to run Torrential into... Yeah, like I was saying before, Torrential is one of those cards that's a little bit better when you haven't used it yet, though. So maybe the fact that it's so early in the game, and you're not really super excited about Torrentialing anything at this moment, maybe you're just going to pass with the Thunder Dragons in hand. I think that's probably fine. We are going to set the Torrential, though. I think that's totally fine as well. Could catch like a Breaker that they summon. God forbid they have like Haiku main deck or something. It'll be good against that, so not too terrible. Siyeon here. Gonna go set a monster, set a back row pass. Cool, not bad. Godot gets to draw for turn, and they hit a Graceful Charity, which is absolutely insane. So definitely gonna fire that bad boy off. I guess the one question would be, do you want to normal summon Breaker? Pop the back row first? It's not terrible, although a lot of players will play around Breaker turn 1 by not setting something that dies to Breaker, basically, right? So maybe you can hold off on the Breaker, you can just go for Graceful, and maybe you'll hit like a better like normal summon for the turn. Maybe like a Flip Monster would be kind of nice, because your opponent doesn't have knock. So I feel like I probably would just fire off the Graceful here and then reevaluate. Yeah, we're going to see Graceful come out. We draw into Knock, Meta, Solemn, so we're getting confirmation that Godot did choose to bring out a little bit of Chaos Control action here in week 2, which is pretty neat. Seeing Solemn's pretty nice. Discards are just going to be the 2 Thunder Dragons, of course. I don't think you want to discard Breaker here to get a Dark Engrave for your Sork, because that'll probably just happen naturally on its own. And you have plays otherwise, so I think it's probably just going to be discard both Thunder Dragons, you'll go normal summon Breaker, pop the back row, knock the set monster, get in for 16 is probably the play. You want to normal summon the Breaker first in case it is Torrential, right? You don't want to knock and then turn their Torrential on. That's probably what we'll see here, yeah. Breaker, pop the back row. It is a Ring of Destruction, so Siyeon is going to chain it. And yeah, like expected, they did play around turn 1 Breaker by playing something that doesn't lose to it. But we had no other play anyway, so going for it is fine. And we can just follow up with knock on the set monster regardless, so I think that's pretty solid turn. Finding the Graceful to cash in our Thunder Dragons. And, okay, so Godot here is running only double Spy here. Well, yeah, I guess this is Chaos Control, so a little bit less room for just the full Turbo package. Siyeon, though, does seem to be running that triple Spy, so maybe they're running a different list than the first time around, or my whole spiel about potentially running only double Spy was just completely wrong, but I stand by, at least it was a little bit more likely than otherwise. But it looks like they are just running triple Spy here. Godot just on the 2, which makes more sense in Chaos Control. Choice here in main phase 2 is, do you want to set Solemn or not? I think you're probably fine not setting Solemn here. You don't really want to be forced to Solemn a Heavy Storm just to protect Torrential Tribute, especially because it's not super great against Chaos Turbo, especially that the spies are gone. The one thing Torrential is good at against Turbo is dealing with Spy neat and tidily with one card, right? But now that you don't have spies to worry about, one of the best uses for Torrential is kind of gone, so it's not really worth having to Solemn, and you don't really want to get just 2-for-1 by Heavy, so I think you just hold Solemn here and pass turn. Yep, that's what we'll see. Siyeon, let's see what the plan is. I'm going to just call them Siyeon or Yoru, whatever, doesn't really matter. Set a monster pass. We draw into Mirror Force for turn. Okay, so we're playing main deck Mirror Force, main deck Torrential. Two cards that both might come out post-side, although we are kind of the more control deck in the matchup, so maybe not. I guess the only play here is summon Asura Attack, right? It's pretty much guaranteed to kill whatever monster they have because the spies are gone. If it's like Night Assailant, I don't think we really care all that much, to be perfectly honest. So I like just running out the Asura here, not allowing them, if it is like a good flip monster, to like set up a Tsukuyomi loop or something. Just get a little bit aggressive. I think that's fine. And we cycle over to Koichi. Not the end of the world. We do turn Chaos on for our opponent, but we at least have like a Solemn Judgment here. So I think we're probably just going to go set Mirror Force, set Solemn, protect some of these cards in our hand from like a potential Delinquent Duo, and give the opponent... Okay, we're actually just not going to set anything. We're still just going to sit behind this Torrential. I guess still not wanting to have to commit Solemn to deal with a Heavy Storm. I think that's totally fine. I probably set everything here, but it's really not the end of the world. I guess you could also, if you want to be super cute, especially because we know that Siyeon was main decking at least 2 Trap Dust Shoots. Dust Shoot is probably something you want to play around in this scenario. So you could even just go set Solemn Mirror Force meta to play around potential Dust Shoot, because your opponent will be able to see 2 new cards with the Deco plus the draw for turn. So in order to play around Dust Shoot, maybe I prefer that. But I think this play is totally fine as well. It's pretty marginal at this point. And honestly, if you get hit with Dust Shoot, you don't really care too much, I don't think. Your hand is kind of doing nothing at the moment. So really, we're just kind of in stall until we can draw some more stuff mode. I mean, at least we do have a clock with Asura. Yeah, I feel, yeah, maybe... Because Asura is kind of the only thing in our hand that does anything, I think playing around potential Dust Shoot is probably correct here. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. I think it could definitely go either way. You also make the argument that you're the control deck, and you probably don't want to be forced to use your Solemn this early on, right? So maybe you just want to like not be forced into doing that. Hold on to your traps till late game. You're Chaos control against pretty likely Chaos Turbo here. So you want to make it to the long game, see a lot of cards, see most of your deck. And so there's nothing urgent that you need to Solemn right now. So why give your opponent something to bait out your Solemn? I think is maybe the idea. Siyeon is going to go upstart here. That's pretty nice. Into normal summon breaker. We're just going to chain Torrential, of course. Totally fine. Getting some value there. That's honestly kind of best case scenario. Now that the spies are gone. And at least it's a nice tempo swing. And we're already up like a card, right? Thanks to, well, I guess we're up 2 cards, right? Because we had Duo and then Graceful plus TD. So yeah, we can just kind of chill here and then slowly clock the opponent with a Asura Priest is probably the idea. They're just going to go set a monster. Oh, and they're going to slam BLS. Okay. So that was the other reason why setting the Solemn might have been a decent move. Just because we knew Chaos was live, right? And so Solemn in Chaos is generally quite strong. And we don't really have an out to a summoned Chaos unless they choose to attack into Mirror Force, which is not a guarantee. Yeah, so maybe from that perspective, hindsight's 20/20, I always say, but maybe setting Solemn would have been fine there. The only annoying thing would be like if you had to Solemn a Heavy Storm, or if you had to Solemn the BLS and then the rest of your cards are kind of a sitting duck for Heavy Storm. Yeah, because none of them are chainable. Yeah, so maybe, yeah. I guess you're fine taking a hit by BLS. It's not the end of the world. So this is probably okay, especially because Ring is already gone as well. BLS will get in for 3k, which chunks us down to 34, which is pretty scary. This is a 2-turn clock. But I think the play is probably correct to not set Solemn there. Because they have Solemn plus Mirror Force, we basically just like lose, right? Or Solemn plus Heavy Storm, I should say. Okay, we draw Magician of Faith, which is interesting. Okay, so now we actually have a level 1 to go with our Metamorphosis. Our opponent does have a back row here to maybe protect the BLS, though, which is a little bit unfortunate. So honestly, what we could do, maybe, you could go for like set Solemn, set Mirror Force, so that you have Solemn backup for next turn when you go for the Metamorphosis on Faith play, right? You could even like set a Serra Priest here to make it. Well, you kind of want the BLS to attack though, right? So maybe you don't set the Asura Priest. I guess you would only do that if maybe you were worried about like MST sniping your Mirror Force or something, but you're still not dead from that. You drop to 400. And yeah. Although you'd have to Solemn a monster that they played. Yeah, so that's... Yeah, so you probably set Asura here. I mean, I guess this is from the perspective of we're not just going to go fire off Metamorphosis here. If we don't do that, I think the play has to be set Asura Priest, set Solemn, set Mirror Force. So at least you have something in the way. If they like MST the Mirror Force, we don't just lose like immediately. Right? Probably. Or at least make it less likely that they play aggressively enough to win immediately. But is that the right call? Do we just want to go Faith, set Faith, activate meta here? Go for the Thousand Eyes. Ring is gone, which is not terrible. They could have Raigeki break. Yeah, I mean, I guess their only outs that they would play in their deck right now are really Raigeki break and maybe Book of Moon. Siyeon is we know from the scouting is at least on a Book of Moon in the 55, but maybe not the main deck. So maybe the play is just go for the meta play here, steal the BLS, and then set everything after that. Yeah, that's probably it. Because I feel like there's not a lot of back row here that really screws you over too much. Let's see what Godot tries to do here. Yeah, they're gonna go for the play. Yeah, we'll see if so. Yeah, and even if they have Raigeki break, it's like okay, you're down to just one card. I have Mirror Force to do with the BLS, so it's not the end of the world, right? So we're gonna meta steal the BLS. Do you attack here? Yeah, I feel like you definitely attack here because you have solid backup, right? So yeah, get in for 3k, start blocking the opponent. It is MST from Siyeon just to deal with the BLS. That's actually really nice. But yeah, not wanting to get put on the 3-turn clock, so they're kind of forced to MST just to prevent the damage. And this ended up being a really good play. Yeah, I think this is definitely correct, especially because Ring was gone. Even if they did have Ring, it's still probably correct, right? But now we're just in a really good spot. Now the question is, do we want to set Mirror Force or Solemn or anything? They do have Chaos Live again. So maybe you do set both, and if they have Heavy, you still probably Solemn to protect your Mirror Force, is my guess. Yeah. Yeah, because you're kind of you're worried about like Sork. You're worried about Tribe would be pretty annoying. So I think you probably want to set your back row here. Yeah, and Godot agrees. Cool. Now we are kind of Thousand Eyes locked ourselves here, but we do have Chaos Live. If we could always just go Sork banish our own Thousand Eyes if we really need to. I think we're fine sitting here and drawing a bunch of cards though. That feels pretty good. Ring and BLS are gone. So the major like OTK threats are dealt with. Spy's gone as well. So yeah, I think we're in a really good spot here. Just being able to answer that BLS, and now we don't really have to force anything at this point. Siyeon's just gonna go T-set pass. Okay, I think that's fine. We draw Raigeki break for turn. That's pretty interesting. I guess we'll see if we get to main phase 1. I think the obvious play is just, Thousand Eyes suck the set monster, go from there. We get there, yeah, so suck it in. We steal Magician of Faith. Interesting that Siyeon would go and just set a monster here without, like, something to pop the Thousand Eyes. Just gets us a free +1, right? Which is kind of funny. Now, we can't really attack. I don't see. I mean, do you just go Sork banish the Thousand Eyes and start attacking in next turn? Or I mean, you can even do it this turn. You can go Sork banish Thousand Eyes, summon a Sura Priest attack, backed up by Solemn in case they have like Torrential. That's probably good. Right. I'm not a huge Chaos Control player, but I feel like at this point we're in a decent spot and like there's no other way to break our Thousand Eyes lock unless we just happen to hard draw a Tsukuyomi. Really, right? Unless we're playing main deck book, which we could be. Or maybe Thunder Dragon. No, our Thunder Dragons are gone though. Yeah, so I feel like might as well just go for the Sork banish, Thousand Eyes, summon Asura attack play. That seems like what we should be doing at this point. Yeah, and that's what's gonna come down. Sorkin defense is correct, I think. Banish the Thousand Eyes, summon Asura, get in. Yeah, nice play. Start clocking the opponent. It's not lethal just yet next turn, but it is pretty dang close. And set that Regeki break as well, just in case. Might as well. Protects against top deck duo. And you have Solemn to protect against heavy anyway. And actually makes Solemning the heavy a little bit more worthwhile. Right? So yeah, that makes sense. And Siyeon is going to go Jar of Greed, sure. Into Upstart, sure. Into Mind Control, okay. I feel like we probably don't need to Solemn this. Right? Because we still have the Asura Priest as the clock, so if they're just trading 1-for-1 and we still have a clock here, I think that's totally fine. Yeah, so it gets banished, and then they set a monster pass. Okay. We draw for a turn. We draw Knock, which is insane. I was about to go into the, okay, do we want to Raigeki break this set or not? We just drew Knock, which is amazing. So it's going to be just Knock, get in with Asura again. Hits a Dekoichi too, which is cool. I feel like the opponent is running triple Dekoichi like we saw in game one, or in week one. So this actually very well, we haven't seen anything that disproves that they're not just running the same 55 from the first week, right? Yeah, we saw main deck MST, we saw Jars, we saw exactly two Faith. A third Faith would mean it's a different one. But yeah, crazy knock top deck. Asura will get in for 17. Cool. All good stuff. 2-turn clock, up a million cards. Yeah, looking pretty nice. Do it again. And probably lights out quite soon. Top deck Pot of Greed. You probably saw him this, right? Yeah. And then that's just going to be GG. Nice. So we take down game one here. Now, if we want to go look at our scouting here. So this is... We like I said, we didn't see anything that disproved that this was the list that Siyeon was playing. Right. We know they're on Triple Spy based on the first game, just confirming how many their total spy count. We did see that they were prepared with a Book of Moon and a Kaiku likely in the side deck, so those are definitely going to come in here against us. What they do with the Dust Shoot is going to depend on the 55, but we know that these are at least a couple cards that we can prepare to side in, or that we can assume that Siyeon's going to bring in against us, right? So if we have like you definitely want to keep your Mirror Force in. Maybe you side Saku if you have that. Maybe you side Zambira if you have it. Something to deal with those Kaikus. You probably don't need to go super crazy, but Kaiku is a card that you need to at least have a plan against, right? Even if it's just like, okay, I'll have Mirror Force and Spies. I think that's fine. They are running Jar of Greed. It seems like a pretty standard turbo trap lineup. So maybe you don't keep in your back row hate, right? That's probably the idea. We'll see exactly how Godot chooses to approach this, though. Yeah, thinking it through, they will have to go second here in game two. See how they do with that. Okay. And Siyeon opens Thunder Dragon. Set a couple of back row pass. Okay. We'll see if we make it to main one with no Dust Shoot. Nope. Dust Shoot comes through. And let's see. They're going to rip out Thunder Dragon, which makes decent sense here, I think. It is the light. Could be pretty nice if we draw into Graceful or something. I mean, you could take Sang in there. but maybe has a decent out to that. But TD will get shuffled back. Not the end of the world. All this stuff is known, but luckily we do have a Pot of Greed to resolve, which is pretty nice. Just gonna go fly or send that pot there. We draw into swap and duo. So pot duo here, turn 1, post dust shoot. It's pretty nice. We're gonna get dust shooted again. Okay, so now they probably send back the Sinister or the Sangan. Yeah, they're gonna send back the Sinister. That's fine. Hit him with the duo now. Okay, oh, are we gonna go hold? So I guess against Turbo specifically, it can be better to go dust shoot than duo, right? Because you can dust shoot away like, well, I guess duo isn't great right now because they have double Thunder Dragon in hand. So yeah, hold duo till post dust shoot I think is probably the play at this point. You know that they will have a monster in hand to send back with shoot, and if it just happens to be a Thunder Dragon, it's actually fine because then it makes your duo better regardless. So yeah, I think holding duo here makes a good amount of sense. Normal Sangan get in for damage is pretty obvious. It's known, so there's no point in baiting by setting it. So just get in for a little bit of damage, and then you can just set shoot and jar. Pass, I think is the play. Not too bad. Siyeon. Yeah, we're just going to fire off Dust Shoot here. It's known, so there's no point in not just firing off ASAP, right? And we will see their hand is Spy, Tribe, Double TD, Knock. And they have a duo of their own, which is a little bit unfortunate. Looks like they must have just top decked that. So Godot is probably... I mean, I guess unless Siyeon went for the same... Okay, let me Dust Shoot to rip out all of your anti-duo cards and then resolve duo again. So maybe both players going for that play. But our hand is about to just get demolished, which is a little bit unfortunate. I think you probably send back... Well, so here's the thing. We have Creature Swap. They have no out to our Sangan right at this moment. So if they go set Spy and we just go Creature Swap, what happens? Are they going to knock the Spy that we took from them? They maybe could, right? Just to start beating with Sangan, but then at some point we'll kill their Sangan and get value off of it. So that's probably fine. The issue is, if our Creature Swap gets hit by this duo, then Spy is going to be a really big problem based on what our hand is right now. And if Spy ever resolves, Creature Swap becomes pretty bad. So I feel like you probably take back Spy here. Tribe isn't really doing anything at the moment. Even if swapping to steal the Spy would be pretty good, there's the risk that we just won't have the swap available because of the duo. So I think the risk-adverse play here is just to send back the Spy, I think is probably the play. It's also their dark if they ever draw into chaos as well. So this is probably the move. I'm gonna send back the Tribe though. Okay. That's kind of interesting because Tribe just feels like it doesn't do anything right now. Like, what are you gonna do? Tribe my Sangan? Surely not, right? Yeah, this is, maybe I guess playing for the high roll. Godot could think that, okay, I'm so far behind right now if this duo resolves that I just need to hope that I can keep my creature swap and go for the swap on the Spy play is the idea. It's a little risky, but I guess if you're this far behind, you kind of have to take risks and just hope you can... Basically, if you pull that play off, you don't want them to have Tribe, right, to clear out your Spies. So if your play is to just put all your eggs in the creature swap basket, I can see sending back the Tribe. I'm not sure if it's the most consistent thing, but maybe you just need to take a gamble here. This is an interesting spot, I think. We'll see it. We'll see how it plays out. Okay, we're gonna get hit by duo. Now the question is, I feel like if you're putting all your eggs in the basket of protecting probably the swap, I guess is the idea. Then do you have to protect the swap here though? Because if they go Spy, we don't creature swap. They flip Spy again, but no, because like you don't want to keep duo off of this duo here because they have double TD in hand, so it's not even doing anything, right? So I feel like we're setting up here to protect the swap, in which case we need to change jar to the duo here to make it not 100% chance that our swap gets hit. So I'd like to see it. Yeah, change R is good. I should be showing hands, of course. Drawn to Zambira. Okay, so Godot is playing a little bit of that Zambira technology. They know that the opponent is unsighted Kaikus from the scouting, so nice play bringing that in there. And then we'll see what gets hit with the duo. They hit our duo, which is fine, and you discard the Zambira, probably. This is actually a little bit interesting, because Zambira can, like, at least wall out the spies, right? And we know, yeah, the hand has knock. Yeah, so we don't care about that. So if they choose to knock our spy, that is kind of annoying. But if they go for that, then we can just Zambira beat over the Sangan, and that's fine. Or no. Well, you can't do that because you don't have both of these cards. I feel like you probably want to keep the swap and then set up for beating over the Sangan later on. Even if they knock the spy, that's probably fine. I don't think Zambira really does enough here. Because then the plan is just sit behind like a 1900 attack Zambira for forever. Which doesn't seem super duper strong. So I'd probably keep the creature swap, yeah. Godot agrees. They're going to go normal summon spy here. Okay, so they're going to play around creatures. So this is actually something I didn't think about. Siyeon's going to try and play around the creature swap by going normal summon spy, kill the Sangan. Which we can grab Sinister and then swap, but then we only get a spy off the swap, which is like fine, I guess. It's a little bit odd. But yeah, I think Sangan into Serpent is probably the play. It sets up for at least a decent creature swap at some point. They're just going to pass. We draw Minecon for turn, which doesn't do anything. So now the question is, do we want to go for the swap Serpent play? Because all we're getting is a spy? Probably yes, because, like, what else are we doing? Right? We don't want to set Serpent and just get it knocked. We don't want to just take 12 every turn. So I think we just go for the creature swap play here. We'll get some card advantage, kind of, right? Because we'll get to beat over our own Sinister and then get it back next turn. So I think this is, yeah, this is just the play. Honestly, kind of surprised that this is what Siyeon decided to go for. But I think this is the right play given the circumstances. Siyeon's going to go set a monster pass. We have Minecon, which is pretty nice. We can get that Serpent back. Now, are we worried about a bait? Yes, it could be Sinister. Yes, it could be Sangan. Faith is probably not something that they set here. Or maybe they do. But grabbing back Duo when they know we have Serpent isn't super strong. So I feel like it's pretty unlikely that it's Faith. But it could be Dekoichi, it could be Spy. Both are good things to mind control. And we know they're on triple Spy, triple Dekoichi. So, once again, scouting kind of coming into play. It's actually a really good chance. Like, if they were on double Spy, double Dekoichi, it's actually kind of 50-50 if it's a fake set or a real set. I mean, I guess it could be Night Assailant, in which case we probably want a Minecon anyway. But I guess the fact that they're running, we know they're running the full copies of Dekoichi and Spy, makes the mind control math work out a little bit more favorably. So we're probably just going to fire it off here, I think is the plan. Yeah, we're going to do it. And it is Magician of Faith. And that seems like a huge blunder out of Siyeon. Because, like, you don't even care about grabbing this duo, right? And so giving the opponent to mind control, grab pot, is basically like, yeah, that just feels like a really big throw, unfortunately for them. And yeah, we're going to get to Minecon, grab pot, draw into another spy and another faith. This is pretty nice, right? So I guess the play here. So I think it's lights out, right? Our win con, the most obvious win con, is if we can resolve a faith and grab pot again, right? That's insane. We have Ring to break up if they like top deck Tsukuyomi. That's pretty nice. We know their hand is knock double TD. So we kind of want to bait something out with this knock, right? It could be Spy. Could be Serpent. I feel like, yeah, Serpent's not really doing too much at the moment. So maybe you just go set Serpent, pass, and hope they knock it. I mean, this is like a game theory thing. It's like they know that I know that you have Noblemen. So sometimes, some percentage of the time, you probably set any of these three cards, right? You probably lead with something that isn't Faith, most of the time, like probably 80% of the time, you don't play Magician of Faith here. But some percentage of the time, you do just want to play the Faith, right? And the opponent will be like, okay, I'm just not going to knock because they're clearly just trying to bait out my knock, right? So honestly, depending, I think any set here is good from Godot. They're all fine. The other option, I guess, would be like normal spy attack, which does have some merit. It is a 3-turn clock. But that does lose to like a lot of top decks that Siyeon could have, right? Or at least it doesn't do a lot against a lot of Siyeon's top decks. So I like playing to resolve this Faith and just making it like without a doubt that we're going to win. So I think just we're going to beat in with Spy here and then set something. Any of them, some percentage of the time, I think is good. So regardless of which one they go with, I think it's fine. Set Spy, yeah, totally fine. Set the ring, of course, as well. Makes total sense. And now Siyeon here has one new card. Well, they knock. They are going to knock, so we baited out the knock. Right, so now we can go ahead with go for the Faith. We lose our last copy of Spy. And Siyeon loses there. So they must have... So it looks like they must have drawn Spy for turn. Right, that's actually a lot of knowledge. Because they only banished one Spy off of that. We have their second Spy. So their hand must be exactly double TD Spy here. Right. And then they're going to try and go Tribute for Thunder Dragon, kill our Spy, but we can just rain the Thunder Dragon, and then we have game, right? Because they'll go down to 23, or sorry, no, sorry, I got a little bit ahead of myself there. We do not have game, but we have pretty close to game, and we have a Faith with no, now that we know our opponent has no knock in hand. Yeah, so we'll see the TD come down. Gonna kill the Spy, but we're gonna ring it. Really nice. They're down to 23. Spy alone, it's a 2-turn clock. We draw Raigeki Break. This is awesome. We're just gonna go attack with Spy, set Faith, set Break, and then there's like basically no way we lose this game from here. Yep. Siyeon, we know the hand is TD, Spy, and an unknown. And let's see, they're gonna go normal Spy. Yep. We're just gonna Raigeki Break that, right? Well, I guess, do you want to Raigeki... So this is actually an interesting choice. Do we want to Raigeki Break here? What are we worried about? That could turn Chaos on. We know their hand also just has a Thunder Dragon. So is there something we want to save our Raigeki Break for? It's actually not entirely clear to me. Okay, so what punishes us here? They already normal summoned. So the real threat is if we Raigeki Break the Spy and then they slam Chaos. Main phase 2. But if they slam Chaos, then we can just go flip Spy into creature swap and win. Unless they summoned it in defense, but basically win. Right, so we actually don't care about anything that they can summon in main phase 2? Is there back row we want to save the Raigeki Break for? Not really, because if they kill our Spy, like what back row are we popping? Right, so yeah, I think you just Raigeki Break the Spy here. Because as long as this... I guess the crazy play would be if they go... We Raigeki Break the Spy, and then they go main phase 2, drop BLS, banish the Faith. That would be really bad. But do we think our opponent wouldn't summon BLS in main phase 1 if they had it? Right? Like, it seemed... They probably... maybe not. There's a chance that they have held BLS here. Yeah, because it punishes exactly, like, baiting out whatever this removal might be. Right. So there is a chance that they're holding BLS, which would be pretty catastrophic if it came down and banished our Faith. But if they have BLS banish our Faith, yeah, we basically just need to kill... Yeah. Yeah, so I think we probably don't Raigeki Break here. Because the only way we lose is if our opponent has BLS, right? Because, like, we're probably going to resolve this Faith. Unless they have, like, second knock, that would be annoying. But if they have BLS, we lose for sure. If they have knock, it's like, okay, fine, I can at least clock you with the serpent, I guess. It would be annoying, but it's equally as likely as BLS. And BLS, we like definitely lose pretty much in like a lot of scenarios. So I feel like we hold the Raigeki break here in case they have BLS. Sure, it removes our lethal position, but we're pretty much going to be able to flip summon a Faith on our turn, grab pot, and go probably find something for game from there. So yeah, I think this is the right play. And then they are going to go slam BLS. Okay, yeah. Wow, okay. Really nice play here from Godot. Basically the one card Siyeon could have here that would do this. But holding the Raigeki break, I think, is really smart in exactly this scenario. Unfortunately, we're going to be left top decking. Okay, we draw Scapegoat for turn. Okay. So it's probably just set Scapegoat pass, plan to Raigeki break the BLS at a certain point, right? I think that's the move. They're going to go attack in. Do we just Raigeki break here? Probably. Like, I don't see why not. We're going to Scapegoat first. Okay, so why would we Scapegoat? Oh, so I guess because Scapegoat makes top deck Metamorphosis live for game. So that's the idea. Is we can just stall out a little bit. Like we always have Raigeki break if we need to use it. But let's stall and try and find something to kill the opponent as soon as we answer this BLS. Because it would be annoying if we Raigeki breaked it now and then didn't have an out for like their follow-up. Whereas here we just will be able to kill them sooner, hopefully, if we draw something. So yeah, I like this. I like the Scapegoat. They leave. They're going to kill 2, most likely. That's fine. And then they set a back row pass. Okay, so they have a back row. Could be a lot of things. Could be nothing. Let's see. We draw Tribe for turn. Okay, so now we have game. Right? Yeah, so now it's just standby phase, Raigeki break the back row, regrab the Serpent, main phase 1, normal summon Tribe, Sinister, discard Sinister to kill the BLS, and attack for game. So yeah, that is pretty nice because we actually were able to save the Raigeki break to do what the back row here instead of the BLS, which the Scapegoat kind of allowed us to do. Scapegoat, of course, wasn't necessary in the scenario for exactly this play, but it does make, like I was saying, top deck meta live, because then you could just go Raigeki break, pop the back row, meta into Thousand Eyes, steal the BLS, go for game. So this keeps most of our game shots open. We just happen to find the Tribe Infecting Virus option, which is totally fine. Back row is a Jar of Greed. Chain it, sure, doesn't matter. Send by phase, grab the Serpent. Show Tribe for game. And Godot takes it down 2-0. Really well played there, both games. Yeah, I think not taking the bait and clearing out the Spy with that Raigeki break was such a smart decision. And it allowed them to just find this way to play around basically the one card that would make them lose, but one that Siyeon definitely could have. Like, it was very much in their range. We knew this was like the first time this game that Chaos was live for them, so they could have just had one chilling in the hand for at least a couple turns. And yeah, the held Raigeki break, super strong there. Definitely we could see them using some of their scouting knowledge into what they sided into as well. Like, we saw them bring in Zombiros, which are really good when you know your opponent has Kaikus in the deck. And yeah, I think just really well played all around, both games. Really cool gameplay. This is the GOAT format War League feature match for Week 2. Excited to show you guys what we have cooking for Week 3. But this is a dub for Godot's team. Potentially will continue to be undefeated in the league going forward. And Godot at least is 2-0 in the league as well, so top of the MVP standings, at least for the time being. So yeah, really cool stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed this deep dive into some GOAT format action gameplay. I will catch you all next time.